Welcome, everyone. This is a very special episode because this is the entire Seedcamp senior team. We have a really exciting story to tell you, which is the launch of our new fund. Now, you probably are watching this well after we've launched the fund and you've read the TechCrunch articles. So why are you going to watch this? Well, first of all, because I think we really want to share with you why we do what we do, how we do it, what's different this time around, and specifically to you, what is it that we're looking for and how it is that we can help. So this is a very special episode, as I mentioned, and I want to kick that off by handing it over to my colleague and co-founder of Seedcamp, Reshma Sahoni.
Super. Yeah. Couldn't be more excited. The timing of launching in 2023 with what lies ahead of us, which is a pretty incredible decade or two of a whole new cycle. And so armed fresh with $180 million to be able to invest as that first check for founders across Europe. It's just a very exciting time. And here we are talking about it.
One of the things that's really driven Seedcamp is this idea that we're community driven. And it's probably worth going into that a little bit. One of the things that really makes our DNA is this idea that we didn't start off knowing everything. We started off just bringing people together and leveraging the best of the community. Do you want to maybe share a little bit of how that's evolved over the years?
15 years in, it's really that growth story of community. We started with a very small number of people, particularly in London 15 years ago, that were very active in venture capital and less active as founders. And today, over the course of the nearly 2 decades, that this community has just grown across every geo in Europe, whether it's Romania or the Nordics or the Balkans, obviously France, Germany, and the UK continued, even a little bit in the US. That founder talent comes from everywhere. And that founder talent has grown into investors in our own fund as LPs and experts in our collective, and so on and so forth. So now this community stretches into 1,000+ people and covers just so much ground and so many different sectors and feeds on itself into this kind of flywheel at creating a nation, an economy of sorts. So it's just powerful. And again, pretty great time to be looking at the next couple of decades ahead.
What's interesting about that is that it's forced us into having to think very differently about how we do things. And one of the areas that we take pride in is we carve our own path. We call it being entrepreneurially minded in how we do everything about venture. And so that's made us stay ahead of some changes, but there's a lot more to come. Sia, Tom, and I were debating whether we're going to be replaced by AI by the time this fund's done. Who knows? We'll see when we play this back. It could be the last known video of all of us before we got wiped out by Skynet. But either way, when you look at it, we're entrepreneurially minded, meaning we like to continue building products that are relevant for founders. But one of the ways that we do that is by being teamwork centric. Now, what does that mean? It means that we don't just work with one person, one founder, one representative from the Seedcamp team. It's a collective. But I want not for me to say more about that. I'd love for Tom to help us guide through what's that look like in terms of our new strategy, our new check size, and evolution of our products.
Yeah, thanks, Carlos. You used the word evolution there, and that's important to emphasize. This is an evolutionary fund, not like a revolution. We've always been very, very early stage investors, and that's very consistent with every single fund that we've had. And definitely with this Fund 6, as Reshma mentioned, it's $180 million vehicle. And with that, we can lead and co-lead with check sizes of up to $1 million. That allows us to be incredibly collaborative with others and highly flexible in whatever it takes to help the founder. Our ownership structure has remained very consistent again across each of these funds, right back from the very beginning when Reshma founded Seedcamp. And that allows us to be very, very well suited to other co-investors who come alongside us, whether they be angels or micro funds or potentially other seed funds, because we're taking that slightly smaller ownership stake in the 6 to 8% range as a core strategy. The round sizes with that allows us to think through. If you're a founder and you're saying, okay, at what time shall I come and speak to Seedcamp? Definitely no stage, no moment is potentially too early. We love meeting and seeing founders at that earlier stages, even as they're starting to think through the early days when they've just left a company and they're thinking through what that's going to be next. But really, we look at rounds probably up to, say, $2 million or so is something which is going to fit very naturally with us to potentially lead in a collaborative way. But as those rounds get bigger, all the way up to $3.5 or maybe $4 million at the top end, of course, we can participate in those larger seed rounds, but generally we're going to play the role of maybe a second largest investor in those rounds rather than being the largest in the lead ticket. So we play alongside others The focus, and we'll come on to that, I'm sure, as we explore some of the other things that we'll touch upon in this podcast, is always been for us to be hyper-focused at that earlier stage. So we want to be partnering with founders at that initial round or that very early stage round. So that can be as early as even angel rounds in investing alongside those, because we have that flexibility and that ability to move as fast and as nimbly as angels. Maybe we can come on to discussing some of the ways that we work with those and some of the ideas we've got around that shortly. Cool.
When it comes to the community approach, it obviously applies to the way we support the companies, but also to the way we build syndicate in those initial rounds. We've seen over the past 4 or 5 years that there are really strong portfolio founders, operators from some of the most successful European scale-ups that are really keen to also write checks alongside us. There are also some great microfunds that have emerged, some with a more specialized approach. And we really believe that for those initial round of fundings, now that you have so much choice as an entrepreneur to really pick from a lot of value-add investors that bring their own networks, their own specialty, it does make sense to build a village around the founders for that initial phase. And so with our very collaborative approach, with the fact that we had the chance over the past years to work with pretty much everyone that invests early in Europe, we can be a catalyst to really help you as entrepreneurs to find the best partner for that round and make sure you really are well armed for that next phase that comes and that will take you to product market fit and then Series A. Maybe worth also touching a bit to how the thesis has evolved in terms of the areas we're really keen to invest in. Carlos, do you want to maybe mention some of the things we've done on that front? We've been quite active for years now in categories like AI and computer vision, but there are a lot of other sectors and categories we're also excited to invest in with this new fund.
Yes. So the fun part of asking me that question, Sia, is that I am trying to predict what this video will be played back in 3 years' time when we're doing our last investments and people being like, geez, what was all this hype about? And we've seen that happen over the years, right? We've seen hype cycles of everything come and go. And so I think it's going to be a very hard question to answer because we don't have visibility on what will change. What we do know is, one, we're nimble, we're fast. If you're building up a new area that hasn't been done before and you want to be the first entrant there, let us know. We'd love to be part of that new wave. Now, what's the stuff that we all expect is going to be around for the next 5 years? Climate, food, AI, cybersecurity, health, all these things we suspect will probably be around, right? But we never hold back with new ideas. So do please get in touch. And one of the things that makes that possible is having a strong community of founders that support that, whether that be in open source or whether it be in product or in fintech. One of the ways that we stay nimble is not by us being the experts, rather by relying on our community to really support our founder. So with that, Natasha, maybe you can walk us through a little bit about what we're doing.
You raise a great point, Carlos. Community and collaboration have always been at our absolute core, and we are a sector agnostic fund, so we're looking at such a breadth of different areas at any time, and part of how we're supported in doing that is through the expertise that we have, not just within the team but also through our expert collective and the vast network of people that we're collaborating with at all times. So really excited for Fund 6 to launch our Seedcamp expert collective, and really this is a community of people who have built incredible businesses, who've operated at insanely high levels, who've been, companies you'll have all heard of, whether they be publicly listed or ones across the Seedcamp Nation Reshma was talking about earlier on. But we see the full benefits of this Seedcamp flywheel really in motion these days. And we're even seeing it from our companies within Seedcamp being acquired by one another, or companies hiring people that others have looked at, or getting their first customers from the network. So we're really seeing all the benefits of that just in full flow, and really excited to continue to supercharge and support our companies who are building across all of these different sectors and leveraging the expertise that we can bring around the table with all of our amazing experts.
So one of the things that we realize that founders don't always have access to is a network of investors. And so, Antonia, maybe you can walk us through some of the new things that we're doing to leverage that investor network.
This has been said a lot throughout here. Seedcamp is as much as a community as it is a fund. And we are super, super duper proud of having one of the most active and sought after investor communities in Europe. And this is something we've been focused on building over the past 15 years. We have more than 200 investors alone in Fund 6. We have an increasing numbers of Seedcamp founders. And with Fund 6, we're really hyper-focused on making every relationship count. We want to increase the reach of this community to further support the European tech ecosystem. We are backed by some of the world-leading institutions, and that's been something we've been focused increasing with every fund. But we also have a long tail of family offices, angels, founders, which is really the magic of our investor base. And they continue to be an integral part of the Seedcamp Nation and how the early stage landscape in Europe has evolved. What we're doing with Fund 6 is really we're doubling down on that angel and first check community, as our collaborative approach is really increasingly valued by our founders. We think that angel investing in Europe is now, the moment is now. And the best founders are really wanting us to connect them with these tier one angels who form part of our community.
I would summarize that into one of the values we talk a lot about, entrepreneurial mindset and that way of working. Founders are going to be busy coming up with brilliant ideas on solving some of the biggest problems out there or some of the fun problems out there. And as an entrepreneurial oriented fund or community, I think for us, it is this constant focus on agility and meeting them where they not only are today, but meeting them where they're going to be in the next decade of their journey and having that agility to meet them across that whole journey. So everything we've talked about today summarizes towards that. We're here for the next 20 years, if not more, and we're meeting the founders where they need to be and where they are today.
Well, guys, thanks so much for joining us. Hopefully, after hearing this, you're even more excited to work with us. As we said, just to summarize, we'll back you no matter whether it's your angel round or your seed round. We're happy to lead, happy to follow anywhere around the world, but primarily around Europe and Israel and the longitude associated therein. Any sector, there's obviously sectors that are always coming and going, but any sector that is changing the world and creating a GDP lasting impact, would love to hear it. And then what we provide you is a community of support across our founders, our investors, and any idea that you have or any kind of sectoral functional need you have. And you'll get a team. You just won't get one individual. You'll get us, everyone here and more. Seedcamp team's growing and we're all part of your success. We'll stay true to not being stagnant because our entrepreneurial mindset will hopefully keep us ahead of what's needed. So with that, guys, thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to working with you.